It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Pull up a chair. This is Wonder and Wander. Before we get into tonight, let's just land for a second. You came from somewhere. Maybe from work, traffic, the kids, the noise. Whatever it was, just take a breath. You're here now. How are you doing? You know I'm going to challenge you to give the real answer, right? How are you actually doing right now? Here tonight? When you think about where you are in life right now, is it where you thought you'd be? Okay, yeah. Well, hold on to what just came up. We're going to spend some time with that tonight, around the fire. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. When I was a kid, I went through a whole list of things that I thought I was going to be when I grew up. Started with paleontologist. Somewhere in there was soldier, being an author. At one point in high school, I was pretty convinced that I was going to be a police officer for the Nebraska State Patrol. Frankly, I had no idea how any of that might actually work. I just knew, with some strange total certainty, that I'd figure it out. Kids are funny like that. They don't hedge. They just believe. I think that belief is important. Somewhere inside the kid, somewhere inside me, was a picture of the man that I thought I'd become. I'm sure you had a picture of who you thought you'd become. Maybe it was a man who was always confident. Someone who always had the answers. Maybe it was a man who was successful in ways that people could see. Who had a title, a house, and a certain kind of life. Maybe it was just a man who didn't struggle the way that you watched others struggle. And then, life showed up. With all its curveballs and detours and doors that didn't open. The failures you didn't see coming. The losses that changed the shape of things. The version of yourself that surprised you. Not always in the ways that you hoped. Slowly, quietly, the picture started to look different. I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually go back in time for a second. What kind of man did you imagine you'd be when you were younger? I want you to actually picture what you thought you would be. Whatever you saw, it is okay that it turned out differently. We're going to sit with that topic a little bit more tonight. I want to name something that doesn't get talked about much. There's a kind of grief that comes when you realize that you didn't become the man that you once imagined. It's nothing dramatic. It doesn't usually show up all at once. It's more like a quiet ache. A super slow recognition. You're driving somewhere, or maybe you're lying awake at 2 a.m., and it hits you. This isn't the life that I thought I was building. Maybe it's the career that didn't go the way that you planned. Maybe it's a relationship that ended. Or maybe one that quite never materialized into what you hoped it might be. Maybe it's just this feeling that you're not as put together, or as certain, or as enough as you thought you'd be by now. The hard thing about this is that this grief doesn't always feel like it has permission to be grieved, or to even be labeled as grief. You haven't really lost anything. You haven't lost a person. You haven't been through a disaster. You've just lost a version of yourself that you were counting on. But the thing is, that's real loss. And it does deserve to be named. So let me ask you something. And I want you to be honest, even if it's just to yourself. What's one expectation that you had for yourself that you've had to let go of? Yeah, I bet that was tough. I want to say something about whatever came up. Letting go of an expectation isn't the same thing as giving up. It is not defeat. It's one of those quieter forms of courage, releasing a picture of yourself that no longer fits, so that you can actually see the one that does. Here's something I've been sitting with. We spend a lot of energy measuring ourselves against the man that we thought we'd be. That younger version, the one with the plan, the confidence, the certainty about how it would all go. We end up using him as a measuring stick, which ultimately means that we're almost always coming up short. But that guy didn't know what you know now. He hasn't been through what you'd been through. He certainly hadn't loved anyone the way that you'd loved. He hasn't lost anything the way that you've lost. He's just a guy with a dream. And dreams are good, but they're not the whole story. The life you're living now, the actual one, not the imagined one, that life has made you into someone. Someone who carries things. Who shows up anyway. Who's been shaped by things that you didn't choose. And I think there's something in you that's worth honoring. Not the ideal version, but the real one. The one who's here, by the fire, at this point in the road. So let me ask you this. What's one part of who you are now that you're learning to appreciate? Yeah. Well, whatever you thought of, I think that's worth honoring. It's real. There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes the road he's on is not the road he imagined. And that can hit really hard. Like we mentioned earlier, it can feel like loss. Like you took a wrong turn somewhere and you can't figure out how to find your way back, no matter how hard you try. But I want to offer a different way of seeing it. What if the road you're on isn't the wrong road at all? What if it's just the real road? The one that belongs to you. It's actually yours. We carry old dreams, old expectations, old versions of ourselves we thought we'd grow into. And some of that weight is worth carrying. It reminds you of who you were, what you wanted, and what mattered. But some of it is just heavy. Some of it's just unnecessary. And you are allowed to set it down. You can grieve the life that you thought you'd have, and still show up for the one you're actually living. Those things aren't opposites. They can both be true at the same time. And yet, here you are. Not the man you imagined, but the man who lived. The man who survived what came. Who kept walking when the road got hard. Who learned things no younger version of you could have known. So let me ask you a couple things before we go. What part of the man you thought you'd be are you still holding on to? All right, and here's a harder question. What part of the man you've become are you ready to honor? You don't have to choose between the two of them. The boy who dreamed and the man who endured. You get to carry both. And one last thing. I want you to sit with this before we go. If the younger version of you could see you now, what do you think he would thank you for? Yeah, don't rush that one. Let him actually see you. See who you've become. That matters more than you probably think. I know my younger self would probably thank me for his bravery, doing things that would have terrified him. All right, our fire is burning low. Carry what you need. Leave what you don't. You don't have to have it all figured out. None of us do. Myself included. It's been so good to be with you. Let's do it again soon, all right? Okay, I'll see you next time. Safe travels, my friend. That's all for today. Wonder and Wander is written and hosted by me, Mat Wuebben. Original music composed and performed by Calvin Armerding. If this episode meant something to you, think of one man who needs to hear it, and send it to him. And if you haven't yet, leaving a rating on Apple Podcasts helps more men find their way to the fire. New episodes every Wednesday. Wander boldly, wander freely.